There's a certain kind of music that doesn't just play in the background, it stays. It follows you through every decade of your life, showing up at the strangest moments, pulling you right back to where you were the first time you heard it. For those of us who came of age in the 1970s, that music was everywhere. Pouring out of car radios, jukeboxes, and living room record players, it became the soundtrack to some of the most vivid years of our lives. So today we're going back, all the way back, to the songs that shaped a generation. These are the 18 songs from the 1970s we'll never forget. Number 18, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. There had never been anything like it before, and in many ways, nothing has matched it since. Freddie Mercury had been carrying the idea for this song since the late 1960s, scribbling fragments on scraps of paper, playing sections of it on the piano for years before it ever made it to a studio. When the time finally came to record it in August of 1975, the band spent 3 weeks at Rockfield Studio in Monmouth, Wales, along with 4 other studios, pouring everything they had into it. Mercury guitarist Brian May and drummer Roger Taylor sang their vocal parts for up to 12 hours a day, resulting in over 180 separate overdubs, a staggering number for the time. The song runs just under 6 minutes and has no traditional chorus. It moves through a ballad section, an operatic passage that required an extraordinary amount of vocal layering, a hard rock segment, and a quiet, reflective close. Queen's record label, EMI, was deeply skeptical. They didn't believe radio stations would play a 6-minute rock song. They were wrong. After DJ Kenny Everett got hold of a copy and played it 14 times over a single weekend on London's Capital Radio, listener response made the decision for everyone. The song was released on October 31st, 1975, and by Christmas, it had reached number 1 on the UK singles chart, where it stayed for 9 weeks. It reached number 9 in the United States. Decades later, in 2018, it became the most streamed song of the 20th century, surpassing 1.6 billion streams. The song appears on Queen's 1975 album A Night at the Opera, widely regarded as one of the greatest rock albums ever made. Number 17, Hotel California by the Eagles. Don Felder developed the music for this song as an instrumental demo while staying in a rented house on Malibu Beach in 1976. He handed copies to bandmates Don Henley and Glenn Frey, who later added lyrics shaped by the culture of excess and disillusionment they saw around them in Southern California at the time. The Eagles described it as their own interpretation of the high life in Los Angeles. The album Hotel California was released on December 8, 1976, and the title track was released as a single on February 22, 1977. Despite running over 6 minutes, unusually long for radio, stations across the country gave it constant airplay. It climbed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May 1977, the band's 4th song to reach the top of that chart. At the 20th Grammy Awards in 1978, Hotel California won Record of the Year. The twin guitar solo performed by Felder and Joe Walsh at the song's close, nearly 2.5 minutes of harmonized guitar work, was voted the best guitar solo of all time by readers of Guitarist magazine in 1998. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame later named it one of the 500 songs that shaped rock and roll. The album itself went on to become one of the best-selling records in American history, eventually certified 28 times platinum by the RIAA. Number 16, Stayin Alive by the Bee Gees. Few songs are as immediately recognizable as the opening bass line of Stayin Alive. Written and recorded by Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb, the Bee Gees, the song was released in December 1977 as part of the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Barry Gibb has said the song came together quickly while the group was in the studio working on material for the film. The track's driving rhythm was intentionally crafted to match the tempo of disco dancing, and its beat, at 103 beats per minute, later became medically notable when researchers discovered it closely aligns with the recommended rate for performing CPR compressions. Stayin Alive reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in February 1978 and held the spot for 4 weeks. The Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, which the Bee Gees dominated, became one of the best-selling soundtracks in history. The Bee Gees received the Grammy Award for Album of the Year for their contributions to it. The song became so embedded in pop culture that it has remained in continuous rotation for nearly 5 decades, turning up in films, commercials, and even medical training videos. Number 15, Imagine by John Lennon.
Imagine all the people.
John Lennon recorded Imagine in May 1971 at his home studio at Tittenhurst Park in Ascot, England. The production was handled by Lennon himself alongside Phil Spector and Yoko Ono, and the song was released as a single in October 1971.
Imagine all the people.
Lennon later acknowledged that much of the sentiment in the song was inspired by Yoko Ono's art book Grapefruit, which contained conceptual prompts asking readers to imagine various things. The song's piano melody was arranged simply and deliberately, keeping the attention on the words rather than any instrumental complexity.
Living for today.
Imagine reached #1 in the United Kingdom and #3 in the United States. Following Lennon's death in December 1980, the song re-entered charts around the world and has been performed at memorial events, Olympic ceremonies, and public gatherings ever since. In 2004, Rolling Stone ranked it #3 on its list of the 500 greatest songs of all time.
Living life in peace.
Number 14, Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac.
You can go your own way.
Fleetwood Mac released Go Your Own Way in December 1976 as the lead single from their landmark album Rumours. The song was written by Lindsey Buckingham, and it openly reflected the breakdown of his relationship with bandmate Stevie Nicks, who was also involved in the album's creation.
You can go your own way.
Recording Rumours was a notoriously difficult experience for the band. John and Christine McVie were going through a divorce. Buckingham and Nicks had ended their relationship. Yet, despite all of that, or perhaps because of it, the album they made together became one of the best-selling records of all time. Go Your Own Way set the tone for the album, reaching #10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Rumours was released in February 1977 and spent 31 weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200. It won the Grammy Award for Album of the Year in 1978 and has sold over 40 million copies worldwide.
You can go your own way.
Number 13, Le Freak by Chic. Released in September 1978, Le Freak by Chic became one of the biggest-selling singles in the history of Atlantic Records at the time of its release. It spent 6 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and reached the top of the R&B charts as well. The song was written by Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards after the two were famously turned away at the door of Studio 54 on New Year's Eve 1977, despite having been personally invited by Grace Jones. The frustration of that evening reportedly channeled directly into the song's energy. The opening guitar riff, played by Rodgers on his 1960 Stratocaster, which he nicknamed the Hitmaker, became one of the most replicated sounds in disco. Rodgers later recalled that they essentially wrote the song in response to that rejection, and it became the defining moment of their career. Le Freak helped cement Chic as the premier disco act of the era, alongside records like Good Times, which would go on to be sampled extensively in early hip-hop. Number 12, American Pie by Don McLean.
I started singing, bye, this American Pie.
Don McLean released American Pie in November 1971. and it remains one of the longest songs ever to reach number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, clocking in at over 8 minutes and 30 seconds. On radio, it was split across 2 sides of a single, something that was quite unusual at the time.
Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Come on.
McLean has kept the specific meaning of the song's dense, layered symbolism largely to himself over the decades. He sold the original handwritten lyric manuscript at Christie's auction house in 2015 for $1.2 million. At the time, the 4th highest price ever paid for an American manuscript at auction. He wrote in the auction notes that he felt the song spoke for itself. What is known is that the song opens with a reference to February 3rd, 1959, the night Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper were killed in a plane crash in Iowa. McLean, who was a teenager delivering newspapers at the time, later described learning of the crash that morning as the day the music died. The phrase became the song's most recognizable line and passed permanently into American cultural vocabulary. Number 11, Superstition by Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder wrote Superstition in 1972 and recorded it for his album Talking Book, released in November of that year. The song was the lead single from the album and reached number 1 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the R&B singles chart in early 1973. Wonder played nearly all the instruments on the recording himself, including the clavinet, a keyboard instrument with a punchy, percussive sound that drives the entire track. He also played the drums, harmonica, piano, and bass. The track was produced by Wonder himself, marking a major turning point in his career, during which he negotiated full creative control of his music with Motown Records. The song won the Grammy Award for Best Rhythm and Blues Song in 1974 and remains one of the most frequently sampled tracks in music history. Jeff Beck, who was in the studio during sessions for Talking Book, had actually requested a song from Wonder for his own project. Wonder agreed, giving Beck a version of Superstition, but ultimately released his own version first, which became the definitive one. Number 10, Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin.
She's my stairway to heaven.
Led Zeppelin released Stairway to Heaven on their 4th studio album in November 1971. The album, commonly referred to as Led Zeppelin 4, did not carry a formal title on its cover. The band chose to release it with only 4 symbols representing each member. Jimmy Page wrote the music, and Robert Plant wrote the lyrics reportedly in a single-inspired session, while the two were staying at Headley Grange, a country house in Hampshire, England. Page had been developing the guitar arrangement for some time, but Plant's lyrics came together quickly during one evening in front of a fireplace. The song was never released as a commercial single during the 1970s, yet it became the most requested song on FM radio in the United States for years following the album's release. By some estimates, it has been played on radio more than any other rock song in history. It runs 8 minutes and 2 seconds and moves through 3 distinct sections: a gentle acoustic introduction, a building folk rock middle passage, and a hard rock finale. Rolling Stone ranked it number 4 on its list of the 500 greatest songs of all time in 2004. Guitar World readers have voted it the greatest guitar solo of all time on multiple occasions. Number 9, Dancing Queen by ABBA. Swedish pop group ABBA released Dancing Queen in August 1976, and it became the only ABBA single to reach number 1 in the United States, topping the Billboard Hot 100 in April 1977. It reached number 1 in over a dozen countries. The song was written by Bennie Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus, with Stig Andersson contributing lyrics. Andersson reportedly developed the opening piano riff one evening in the studio and immediately called Ulvaeus to come and hear it. Both knew quickly that they had something special. Agnetha Fältskog and Annie Fried Lyngstad's intertwining vocals gave the song its particular warmth and buoyancy. ABBA had already achieved success across Europe, but Dancing Queen solidified them as a global phenomenon. The song was performed live at the Swedish royal wedding of King Carl XVI, Gustav and Sylvia Sommerlath on June 19, 1976, one of the song's very first public performances. The album it appeared on, Arrival, became the band's commercial breakthrough internationally. 8. Night Fever by the Bee Gees. Also from the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, Night Fever was released in February 1978 and spent 8 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It followed Stayin Alive to the top of the charts, making the Bee Gees one of the dominant forces of 1978. The song was crafted specifically for the film, written and performed entirely by Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb. Its smooth groove and layered harmonies became the template for the sleek end of late 1970s disco, polished, melodic, and built for the dance floor. Barry Gibb's falsetto became one of the most recognizable sounds of the decade. The Saturday Night Fever soundtrack as a whole sold over 15 million copies in the United States alone, making it one of the best-selling soundtracks in recording history. Night Fever was a significant part of that commercial sweep. It reached #1 in Canada and Australia as well, underscoring just how far the Bee Gees' sound had traveled by the late 1970s. The song's title had originally been a working phrase Barry Gibb used to describe the electric feeling of being out on a Saturday night. And director John Badham used that same energy to shape several of the film's most iconic dance sequences. The Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, on which both Night Fever and Stayin Alive appeared, was nominated for the Grammy Award for Album of the Year, with the Bee Gees taking home that honor. Number 7, Rocket Man, I Think It's Gonna Be a Long, Long Time, by Elton John. Released in April 1972, Rocket Man was written by Elton John and his longtime lyricist Bernie Taupin, who wrote the words after being inspired by a short story called The Rocket Man from Ray Bradbury's The Illustrated Man. Taupin later recalled seeing a shooting star while driving and beginning to think about what it would be like for a professional astronaut, someone who makes space travel into routine, unglamorous work.
I'm a rocket man.
The song reached #2 in the United Kingdom and #6 in the United States. It has become one of Elton John's most beloved and enduring recordings. The instrumentation was handled with care, featuring acoustic piano, strings, and atmospheric electric guitar provided by Davey Johnstone, who had just joined Elton John's band. The recording was made at Trident Studios in London. The song appeared on the album Honky Chateau, which became Elton John's first #1 album in the United States.
I'm a rocket man.
Number 6, Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel.
Like a bridge.
Paul Simon wrote Bridge Over Troubled Water, and it was released in January of 1970. Art Garfunkel performed the lead vocals, and both men have spoken about the recording with a mixture of pride and personal complexity. Simon reportedly felt conflicted about the song going to Garfunkel, knowing that Garfunkel's voice would define it in a way his own might not. Garfunkel has since called it his greatest vocal performance. The song was produced by Roy Haley, Simon, and Garfunkel, and the final version features a gradually building orchestral arrangement that swells behind Garfunkel's voice as the song progresses. The piano introduction was inspired partly by a hymn called "Oh Mary, Don't You Weep," recorded by the Swan Silvertones. Bridge Over Troubled Water spent 6 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and Top charts in multiple countries. It won 5 Grammy Awards in 1971, including Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Album of the Year for the album of the same name. It remains one of the most awarded songs in Grammy history. The song also won Grammy Awards for Best Contemporary Song and Best Engineered Recording that same year, a nearly unprecedented sweep. It was the final studio album Simon and Garfunkel released together as a duo, and in many ways it stands as the most complete statement of their artistic partnership.
I'm saying
Number 5. Bennie and the Jets by Elton John. Bennie and the Jets was released in February 1973 in the United Kingdom and in January 1974 in the United States, ultimately reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in April 1974. The song was unusual for Elton John's catalog in that it was crafted to sound like a live recording, complete with intentionally added crowd noise and applause, even though it was entirely a studio production. The song was written by Elton John and Bernie Taupin and appears on the double album Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, released in October 1973. That album is widely considered one of John's finest, featuring 17 tracks recorded over just 2 weeks at the Château d'Hérouville in France. Radio stations initially resisted releasing Bennie and the Jets as a single, believing it was too experimental for mainstream audiences. It was Detroit R&B stations responding to listener demand that pushed the song into heavy rotation, leading to its eventual national breakout. Number 4. My Sharona by the Knack. The Knack released My Sharona in June 1979 as the lead single from their debut album, Get the Knack. It spent 6 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making it the longest-running number 1 single of 1979. The song was written by guitarist Burton Aver and lead singer Doug Fieger, who wrote it about a real person, Sharona Alperin, a 17-year-old girl he had recently met in Los Angeles. Fieger and Alperin began dating, and their relationship lasted several years. She later became a real estate agent in Los Angeles, and the song's enduring fame followed her throughout her life. Get the Knack was recorded in 11 days and went on to sell over 5 million copies worldwide. Its raw, guitar-driven sound stood apart from much of what was dominating radio at the end of the 1970s, and is often credited as an early influence on the New Wave movement. Number 3. Dream On by Aerosmith. Aerosmith released Dream On as their debut single in June 1973. It was written by Steven Tyler, who reportedly began developing the piano melody as a teenager in the 1960s. The full composition took years to complete, with Tyler building on it gradually until it became the song that introduced Aerosmith to the world. The song initially reached only number 59 on the Billboard Hot 100 on its first release. It was re-released in 1976 after the band had developed a larger following, and this time climbed to number 6. The track's dramatic arc, quiet piano opening building to Tyler's extended final vocal scream, made it an FM radio staple throughout the mid-1970s. Tyler performed all piano parts on the recording. The song appears on Aerosmith's self-titled debut album, produced by Adrian Barber and released on Columbia Records. At the time of its original release, the band was still largely unknown outside of the Boston area, where they had built their following playing clubs and small venues. It was the 1976 re-release, timed to coincide with the success the band had found with subsequent albums like Toys in the Attic and Rocks, that finally brought Dream On to a national audience and gave Aerosmith the hit record their debut had always deserved. Number 2, Take It Easy by the Eagles. Take It Easy was released in May 1972 as the Eagles' debut single. The song was written by Jackson Browne, who had started it but had not finished it. Glenn Frey, who had been living in the same apartment building as Browne in Los Angeles, heard him working on it and helped bring it to completion. The song reached number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 and introduced the Eagles to the American public. Its easy, rolling tempo and sun-warmed harmonies established the sound the band would carry throughout the decade. The city of Winslow, Arizona, referenced in the song's lyrics, erected a life-size bronze statue and a mural in the downtown area commemorating the song, which became a genuine tourist destination.
Don't even try to understand. Just find a place.
Take It Easy appeared on the Eagles' self-titled debut album, produced by Glyn Johns and released on Asylum Records. Brown's own version of the song appeared on his debut album, Saturate Before Using, the same year. But it was the Eagles recording that became the definitive one. Bernie Leadon's banjo work and the interplay of the band's vocal harmonies gave the song a distinctly warm, Californian quality that immediately set them apart from the harder rock acts of the time. Glenn Frey later said it was exactly the kind of song the band had been looking for, something that captured the easygoing spirit of Southern California in a way that felt natural rather than manufactured. Number 1. September by Earth, Wind and Fire. Earth, Wind and Fire released September in November 1978 as part of their album The Best of Earth, Wind and Fire, Volume 1. The song was written by Maurice White, Al McKay, and Allie Willis, and reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 while topping the R&B singles chart. The song's opening horn fanfare and the distinctive vocal hook became immediately recognizable and have remained so across every decade since. Allie Willis, who co-wrote the song, later told interviewers that she was not initially fond of the phrase "Baity Ya," a nonsense syllable Maurice White had used as a placeholder, and asked him to replace it with real words. White refused, saying the phrase captured exactly the feeling he wanted, and he was right. It became one of the most beloved hooks in pop history. September has consistently appeared on lists of the greatest songs of all time and remains one of the most frequently played party songs in the world. In 2019, Rolling Stone ranked it among the 500 greatest songs of all time. 18 songs, 18 stories. And still, after all these years, when one of them comes on, and whether it's in a grocery store, on a car radio, or playing from somewhere in another room, something happens. It's not nostalgia exactly, it's more like recognition, like hearing your own name in a crowd. The 1970s gave us music that didn't just reflect the times, it outlasted them. These songs went with us into the 1980s, the 1990s, and every decade that followed. They're still here. If any of these songs took you somewhere today, let us know in the comments. Which one hit hardest and why? And if you're not subscribed yet, now's a good time. We cover the music, the stories, and the moments that shaped a generation every single week. Hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.